Welcome to This Week in Heresy, episode 37, Hope and the Old Catholic Church, with our guest, Diane Miles, recorded on location in Berkeley, California. Hi, Diane. Welcome to This Week in Heresy.
Hi, Gina. Thank you. This is exciting.
Oh, good. Well, for those who don't know you, would you please introduce yourself and talk a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I have a number of titles, actually, but I'm the bishop of a church called the Church of Holy Sophia in practice. And we have an office here in North Berkeley. And primarily, it's a combination type of church in the fact that I'm an old Catholic priest. And so we do a lot of Celtic services. It's called a Celtic Mass. And we also do the Sufi universal worship and healing within that worship. And we're just sort of starting. And in fact, this month, we're going to be having the Celtic Mass every month. We meet once a month on the second Saturday at 3 p.m. in Oakland. And then we'll be meeting that Sunday in Berkeley for the Sufi service. So, and also I'm a hospice chaplain. And our work is primarily body, mind, and spirit, and all of its connections. So we do healing work such as Reiki and healing touch. And I am also a spiritual director and a medium.
Excellent. So what do you mean by Old Catholic?
Well, the Old Catholics broke away from the Roman Catholic Church in the 1700s in Utrecht, Holland. And basically there was a lot of political things going and a lot of rulings that they weren't pleased with. So a group of bishops broke away and consider themselves the Old Catholics, as in the original universal Catholicism that they were following before. And
so more like early Christian, a little more like early Christian work.
Yes. And actually, that's what intrigues me about Celtic spirituality, because I'm thinking about the time when the Brehon laws allowed women and men to be equals in the Celtic Isles, and the early, I guess what people call the Celtic Church. That's actually my fascination and my interest in bringing more Celtic spirituality back into the world, because it's balanced with nature and the divine in everything and everyone. And I feel that we really need that at this time in our lives and the way the world's going, to help us to remember that we're brothers and sisters under the holy divine, whatever we name it, because it's beyond our thoughts. So we can't even really conceive of the holy divine, but we need to work together to become better stewards of this world. And we need this brotherhood and sisterhood.
I agree. And it's interesting that you mentioned Celtic spirituality, because there's a lot of people that I've talked to, and, I've talked to people like Mark Townsend and, and just other random people in the pagan community who are like, hey, I'm Episcopalian and pagan. I'm Catholic and pagan. And it seems like there's kind of a resurgence of people going back to a more Catholic-like ritual and keeping their pagan traditions.
Yes, and I think actually the two blend very nicely. I'm also pagan because I believe that there is so much more than just the sacraments. there is the unseen. And I work with auras and healing energy. Energy work is my specialty. And I've been doing it for a number of years, and it teaches you so much more. And also I have gotten in touch with the fact that I've had a near-death experience when I was very, very young.
Oh, wow.
I was a year of age. I had pneumonia, and it was the womb-like darkness of the divine love. But the love is the same as everyone who's had a near-death experience, that love that is beyond anything we can even imagine. It is so pure and so inclusive. And I've been attending a lot of the IANS meetings, International Association for Near-Death Studies. And I just know and have always known that there is so much more than what we just see in each other.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me a lot of the readings that I really love Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And I remember reading her autobiography, I think it is. And just a lot of what she talks about near death is just, and about, reaching out in that divine area of space, if you want to call it that. It was just amazing. And a lot of what you're talking about, it sounds a lot like what she had written and similar ideas that she had written about.
Yeah, I love her works. And it was sad that we had misunderstood what she was saying in her books, and she ended up having a bit of a label for a while. But anyone who works with people who are dying realizes that with every physical change that goes on in their journey, they have to readjust and find that acceptance again. And it's more like a spiral, and it goes deeper and deeper. And there's layers. It never finishes. It's always in fluid motion. And the 5 stages of grief and death and dying and facing loss, they're not linear.
Right. Well, even she admits that. And, I think even in on Death and Dying, she even says that. She's like, you don't always experience everything all at once or in a linear time frame. It happens that way sometimes, but not all the time.
Right. And we're really not very linear when we think about it. This world is, and the way we have to function in society seems to be more linear, but it's really, I don't think it's our nature.
Right. I don't think so either. I mean, I've always seen time as nonlinear, but, doing all of the magical work that I do in my own practice, you get quickly disabused of the notion that time has a finite look or feel.
Yes, I definitely understand that one and have experienced it many, many times. It's like time just sort of stands still.
Right.
When you get into that deep space of working with magic, working with energy, working with your inner higher self with the capital S. Mm-hmm. And when you're communing with the Holy Divine in whatever ways that you do, those transcend time and it transcends space.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's been some trance work that I've done where it's, I've kind of seen all of time and space or time stand still. And it's kind of hard to come back from that sometimes. And
it is.
I find like, because you're seeing this beautiful thing and then, coming back to Earth is kind of a letdown.
Yeah, coming back into the body sort of, oh, I'm back in this thing again. Right. And there's so much more out there.
Absolutely. I want to go back to the old Catholic tradition a bit because I'm curious to know, what is the difference between old Catholic and Gnosticism?
Well, the Gnostics believe in gnosis, which is not an external knowing, it's an internal knowing, and it's based on experience. And there's, again, many branches of Gnosticism, but in the studies that I've experienced, Gnosticism it's like the Tao. When you talk about it, you're not really in it. It is extremely experiential, and it basically becomes a union, as many other traditions teach us, a union with the Holy Divine. And it centers in Holy Sophia. Mm-hmm. And the fact that male and female, we have each within us. And when we can find that internal balance, that is part of the gnosis, as is knowing that there's more to us than just what we see. And love, I guess love is really sort of the center of that too.
Right. How did you get interested in Celtic spirituality, and how did you start incorporating it into your old Catholic tradition?
Well, when I was very young, around 6 years of age, I used to consider myself fully 100% Irish, which I am not. But I don't know. I've always thought that I had this deep connection to Ireland and Scotland and Wales. And then as I grew up, I thought maybe that was kid stuff. And then I met a gentleman who is also an old Catholic priest who is really trying to bring Celtic spirituality back. And he is 100% Irish. Both of his parents are from different parts of Ireland. And when I met him, I realized all of that feeling that I had when I was young was not kid stuff. It was real. I have a Celtic heart, always have and always will. And I've been to the Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, and I want to go back. And it is the embodiment of the whole that intrigues me, because when the Irish saints and the other saints from Scotland and Wales were starting their monasteries, they basically were following the lines of the desert mothers and fathers who had left what was becoming the Roman Church and were seeking a different way and a stronger way to commune with God in their own ideas. And a lot of them ended up in Egypt. And so as time goes along, some of the saints ended up in the British Isles, and their desert became the seas of Ireland and all around. And it became their way of starting monasteries. It was a very monastic culture, and the monasteries were where life happened. A lot of them were co-ed in the very beginnings, and it was a place of learning. It became the biggest. People from all over the world would come to these monasteries to learn, and it just fostered a way of seeing the world as a whole, not as this is sacred and this is not. It was never that way. It was always embodying the beliefs, the pagan beliefs of the people, along with Catholicism.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because it always seems like Celtic spirituality seemed to blend easiest. Although I have read about like Chinese spirituality has been able to blend with Catholic tradition fairly well as well. Oh. And do you like how far ranging is the old Catholic Church these days?
Well, that's the interesting thing. The center is Utrecht in Holland, and there are many, many, many branches. It is still true that there are old Catholics who do not ordain women, and then there are old Catholics who will ordain women. And you're going to find the similarities to Catholicism. Roman Catholicism is always the same, the sacraments. Mm-hmm. So it's sacramentally based, but the beliefs of any one Old Catholic is going to have a big, broad range.
Mm-hmm. Just like any other
Yes.
denomination.
Yes. Yes.
And it's regional too, I'm sure.
It is. And there haven't been a lot of Old Catholic churches here in this Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, it's becoming more popular. A lot of people don't know what Old Catholics are.
Yeah.
And it goes under the umbrella of independent Catholic, meaning independent from Rome.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know what it was until our mutual friend Philip, who's also the Greek geek, until he told me about it, and told me about John and you, and I was just like, seriously, really? That's cool. And so there I have a lot of friends who are of a Catholic persuasion, but won't step foot into a Roman Catholic church. And, never, and I'll be like, do you know about the Old Catholics? And they're like, there's such a thing? And they're friendly? What? So, I guess one of the things I want to ask, just for information purposes, for people who would be interested in possibly joining you, how about, what is your stances on queer people and transgender people and all of that? And, how does that differ from area to area and country to country?
Well, that's, I may not have all the answers for that one. However, I do know that we accept everyone. Mm-hmm. And to me, where your heart is and how you identify yourself and whom you love is a very individual thing, and it's all love and it's all beauty, and we are not either this or that. It just shows how much variety there is in each and every human being, and that each and every human being is okay to have what they believe in and what they do. So our church in specific is open to everyone.
That's really cool. And do you find a lot of people coming who, found you and was like, oh my God, a Catholic church that I can be myself in?
We're finding that. Yeah. We're still starting, but it does seem that because we're also following a Sufi tradition, which is the mystical aspects, right. There's more room for people who have a whole variety of experiences. And because Old Catholics, at least the Old Catholics I have met, allow for people to, when they get married, to have their own vows. You can create your own vows. We do outdoor weddings. We're not, I don't want to use the word rigid necessarily, but the boundaries are wider.
Yeah. And
so people who have been divorced and are getting remarried, there's none of the stigma. Mm-hmm. Does that sort of answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. I think my mom would find it fascinating because, we grew up Catholic and, I was in a fairly liberal Catholic church, which was pretty amazing considering. But one of the things that really made her mad and had her leave the church is that she wanted to get annulment for her first marriage. And they're like, oh, pay us this money, please. And she's like, you what? I don't have that kind of money. Because at the time, I was a baby and she was, trying to get off welfare, and she didn't have that kind of money. And it was a pretty good hefty sum in 76. So I think she would find it fascinating that there is a church that would honor her wish to have the annulment and to remarry. And I think that's really fascinating.
Yes. And I just hope that people hear about Old Catholics more and more and know that there is still Catholicism without so many of the tight boundaries.
Do you think the Roman Catholic Church is with the advent of Pope Francis, do you think they're starting to kind of nudge, budge a little bit?
It does seem so. And he seems to be trying to correct a lot of things that haven't gone so smoothly over the centuries.
Yeah.
I don't know how far he'll be able to go, but there's hope.
Yeah, I mean, I have hope with him, although I'm really disappointed with his recent proclamation or discussion or whatever that when he talked about transgender people being like nuclear bombs or something. And it was just kind of like, really? And there's a part of me that thinks, well, okay, he's definitely not perfect and, what do you expect? But there's also part of me is like wondering, he's been really liberal in a lot of things, considering, the way we see liberal in the United States anyway. And I'm wondering maybe if he's being reined in.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure. I just feel that he's bringing hope. And where there is hope, there's transformation. Because the Holy Spirit can work with us in all of our belief systems much more easily when there is hope. So, I'm with him. Let us spread the word of love and inclusiveness. And may everyone grow in their spiritualness, in their wholeness, and in their union with the Holy Divine.
Well, everybody can change, right?
Yes.
And, and I have hope that the Roman Catholic Church will change. And maybe there'll be a day where the old Catholics and the Roman Catholics are kind of on the same page. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
It would be really awesome, actually. Then again, it'd be nice if all denominations and all religions are kind of on the same page about social issues. But, that's kind of pie in the sky at the moment.
Yeah. And yet, as we continue to imagine it, someday it shall be.
That's true. It's true.
Love seems to me to be the guiding energy. Mm-hmm. The more we can open our hearts to loving everyone and accepting everyone as they are and inviting them to continue their journey of transformation and growth in any way that they are looking for, that's when we will hopefully have everyone agreeing and accepting each other, no matter what religion or tradition they're from or not from.
I've been talking with a lot of people now, and one of the things I tell people is that we're kind of in this in-between stage as a human society, with the internet and everything. We're kind of finding our way. And do you think that's true too?
Yes, I would say yes to that. In the areas that I do my work, I especially see changing going on and an in-between state, because when I work with patients who are getting ready to transform and leave this body and this world, there is a very much a liminal space. Mm-hmm. And I think because of all the financial strains that are going on and all the stress and fear that's going on in this world, it also makes things less solid. And that's also perhaps the only way that we can grow as a species. Because when things are very definite, there's no room mm-hmm. for other and bigger.
Right.
And so it just seems to me that in order for us to continue to mature and grow the way the Holy Divine always holds for us, we have to enter into that between place. And I do believe we're definitely in it.
Well, I mean, I think you can kind of see it with just like the way people are on the internet, the way, systems of power are partially crumbling and partially trying to hold on with teeth and nails. I mean, I've been seeing it a lot because I've been involved in a lot of Black Lives Matter stuff and work, and you can really see that the systems of power that are currently in place are freaking out that they're going to lose their power, which is most likely true. It's just a matter of when and where and how.
Yes, that is true. This world has to change because it's not working. It is not working. It hasn't been working for a very long time. And power can so easily alter our intentions. And those who are in power are holding on very tightly. And change, we cannot stop change.
Right.
We cannot. No matter how much one wants to, change is inevitable. It's part of who we are. We're always changing. Our cells are constantly changing. Some die off and new ones come up. Even nerve cells can grow. And they never even believed that before. Mm-hmm. They grow very slowly, but they can grow. So there's change all around, and the Mother Earth changes. Nothing is forever on this world, in these bodies that we are inhabiting, as our soul tries to remember and become one again.
And it's interesting to see what will happen. I don't know if we'll be on this planet to see what comes out of the other side. It could take longer than I'm alive or you're alive, to see what happens. But it'll be interesting to see where humanity will go on the other side of this.
Yes, it will be very interesting. And I just keep prayers going for our youth.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones who are going to be supporting us as we grow older. And they're the ones who are going to be running everything in this world.
Right.
And they are coming in and being born with a lot of strength. Mm-hmm. Almost amazing strength. Strength of will, strength of character. So my prayers go out to all of our youth that they may help make this world a safe and beautiful place.
Yeah. And it's interesting to watch a lot of the young people, because I was talking about this with another person that I interviewed. And, I think there's a lot of underestimation of the youth today. Because they're like, oh, internet generation, they're not connected and they're not doing, they're all playing video games and on their iPads. And it's like, but if you really kind of look at what they're doing, they are connecting and they are doing a lot. It's just different from the way, you and I grew up.
Yes, very different. And their connections, yes, I don't think we can even fathom all of the amazing connections. There is sort of a newness to the youth these days in trying to navigate such a technologically advanced world that also doesn't always serve us very well. It is amazing. And I think one of the key things for my work is to help hold that hope, because where there is hope, there is the possibility of transformation. And perhaps that's really a lot of what our job is to keep things in the hope versus the fear.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, especially as clergy, especially those of us who work in radically inclusive realms and in the progressive, in progressive denominations, you know, I think you're right. I think making sure that we say, you know, yes, you can be spiritual. Yes, you can have hope, and you can still believe what you believe. And, you know, hopefully we can make a difference and make this world better.
Amen to that.
I'm preaching now. My bishop would say.
Well, you know, love and hope, they dance together.
Mm.
And may the dance become easier for each and every one in this world. May the hope spread. May the love blossom.
Amen to that. What do you see as the future of the old Catholic Church in you know, that kind of hope, but just the future of the church in general?
Well, that's the interesting thing is there, unlike a lot of other denominations, old Catholics are so individual. Sometimes it's just a bishop and some clergy and whomever comes to the services. There's not a lot of cohesiveness at this time for old Catholics. And perhaps there will be in the future. I don't know. That remains to be seen because it seems like religions are changing too. Mm-hmm. And I really don't know where it all is going to go. I know that I think the hope of a lot of old Catholic bishops and clergy is to have a bigger body and to work with each other. But there's such a wide variety of what they believe in. Truly, I mean, it's always based on the sacraments, but there's a lot of individual ideas and thoughts about pretty much everything under the sun. And I don't know if there's ever going to be able to be sort of a cohesiveness, but I think that's what we hope for.
Well, I think it's like anything, you know, what I always say is that, you know, religions have to evolve or they're just going to die out. And, you know, and we're seeing kind of, I think with some traditions, we're seeing death throes, and for some traditions, we're seeing growth, you know, like, you know, just like the little flowers in winter just peeking out of the snow, you know? So I don't know. Do you think that people might turn to more, you know, the old Catholic more than, say, a Roman Catholic or, you know, some of the other fundamentalist traditions in the future?
There is every possibility. What I do see and feel is going on is people are searching. They are looking for something that is bigger, that helps them to get a handle on this world and how things are changing so rapidly. I think people have a deep need and desire for spirituality. And I think that you are correct. If there isn't more of a growth in religion and traditions, if they don't make room for that, they're not serving the public. And people are going to keep searching until they find something else.
Well, I think that's, you know, you get the rise of the nuns or the spiritual but not religious. You know, I think that's kind of the consequence of not, of being too, well, like we were saying earlier, too rigid and too dogmatic, is that you get people leaving.
Yes.
And, you know, and it's kind of a surprise to people sometimes when they find places that they're like, oh, wait, you have that kind of ritual and you're not a jerk. Oh my God. You know?
Yeah. There is so much that is able to happen when we let go of the rigidity and widen the boundaries. And I think that people will continue to be searching for those traditions if you like that word, or denominations or concepts that allow for the bigger picture, because there is such a need for people to have hope and to be loved and to be accepted. And because a lot of religions have the narrow boundaries and more of the dogma, it's hard for people to fit in. And so every possibility exists when we work with God.
Yeah. And, I think God is way bigger than... Way bigger. Way bigger. Way bigger than a lot of that narrow dogmatic tradition says. It's like, why would God put gays and trans people and, I don't know, pick a thing. Why would God put those people on earth if he didn't want them there? That never made any sense to me.
Yeah. Someone once told me, I think I was young when I heard this, God did not create anything that isn't beautiful. Mm-hmm. God did not create any junk.
Right.
And whatever a person is truly in their heart, when they feel accepted and honored, that is union. Mm. And until the world opens up to that, we're seeing all of the aftermath, the fear, the pain, the sadness. And I pray that as humans, we can each grow and accept and love each and every one, no matter who they are. That's really, there's no other way. And people who have had the near-death experiences and other spiritually transforming experiences get this. Mm-hmm. They really do. And just as it takes a whole village sometimes to raise families, it takes a whole village of people who have that spark of the bigger picture. And now we have to dream it into existence, imagine it into existence.
And I think we're getting more of that.
I agree.
And honestly, I know I am a technophile, but I think the internet has really spurred that on.
Well, the fact that it has opened the whole world, nothing is excluded anymore. I mean, the internet is everywhere. And it really gives people an opportunity to connect where there was never an ability really, except for people wanting to travel, to connect. So it does enlarge possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It also brings a lot of fear sometimes when people try to hack into it and cause disruption, but it's incredible. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. And I don't know that it has any boundaries.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think about, and I've mentioned this to a few people, is that I also think it's kind of bringing us full circle as far as spirituality is concerned, because when, early Christianity started appearing, in that time, it was kind of a similar mix of religions and people and, and people learning about each other more, and a lot of mixing of culture. And so I kind of think that we're in a second phase of that, and a similar idea with the internet.
I think that's really beautiful. And I think I like that. I think it's true. As humans, we have everything in common and everything not in common. It's both and. And I think the internet does give us that opportunity to see both and instead of either or.
Yeah.
And there's more freedom to learn and to explore and to accept. There's more challenges to accept, but there's more room for it.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to be like, oh, other ooga booga, if you're looking at them in the face and seeing what they're going through. because you just saw a video on YouTube about somebody protesting in Egypt or something.
Yeah. Yes. I think it gives us the chance to see that human suffering can bring us together, because it touches our hearts when someone else is suffering. And the internet, I think, has a lot of potential to bring us more into a united place where there is love and acceptance. Because yes, when one person is suffering, then we suffer too. And when we can see it and know that it's there, it does make a change in us, even if we're not ready to grasp that when I hurt, you hurt. And when you hurt, I hurt. But it does hold us in a different place.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe makes us, even at the very least, makes us kind of feel that uncomfortableness of, wait a minute, maybe I should be thinking about this differently.
Yes. I think it invites new thoughts. Yes, indeed. And the world is small. It's not as big a place as it seemed before because of all the internet connections and the ability to talk to somebody in India, mm-hmm. for example, or anywhere else in this world. We're all on the same planet, and we can all see that the planet is having a lot of changes, and things don't feel very stable right now.
Right.
And it's worldwide. It isn't just in any one particular location. And now we can see that.
Right. We're in flux, and we know it.
Yes. And that also is where, I guess when things are in flux, the chaos, there brings more fear, and fear brings more violence. And we're seeing that too.
Yeah.
And yet, as I sit here with you, Gina, we're seeing so many people holding that place for hope and holding that place for a bigger and more beautiful picture. And maybe that's just how it's supposed to be and how things will change. As I'm reading Dr. Wayne Dyer, and, he says, imagine it, and at some point it comes true. Nothing in this material world has really existed until humans have imagined it. Mm-hmm. And maybe someday we'll be like, we'll be able to go to different worlds and find all this other beings that we can't even conceive of. And maybe we'll be sort of like Star Trek and have a united federation where we go out and the world isn't based on money and material things as much as it's based on trying to explore and to grow.
Well, I hope so.
I love the idea.
Me too. We are just about out of time. So if people would like to get more information about you or the Old Catholic Church, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
They can email me at drmiles, M-I-L-E-S, at sbcglobal.net.
Okay. And we'll put that in the show notes. Well, thank you, Diane, for being on This Week in Heresy.
Thank you, Gina, for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'd like to thank Diane for joining us this week. As always, if you have comments, questions, or would like to read the show notes, you can go to thisweekinheresy.com. You can support This Week in Heresy by subscribing to the show via iTunes or the Stitcher app, following us on Twitter at TWIH Podcast, or financially through Patreon. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.